Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books,
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we have a very, very, very good comic. We're doing Justice League, The New Frontier, which is by Darwyn Cooke, illustrated and written by Darwyn Cooke. The late, great Darwyn Cooke, God rest his soul. He is a fucking master at comics, and he left us too soon. So, I don't know. I mean, we did Parker, right? So we've read some of his other stuff on this podcast before. If you haven't read Parker, you should pick up Parker. If you haven't read anything else by Darwyn Cooke, you should read everything else by Darwyn Cooke. And a little inside baseball on this one. This was actually supposed to be our third episode. And we recorded it and we had a whole episode ready, and then I went to go edit it and all the audio was corrupted. And so we were like, well, we don't want to just like fake an episode. So let's wait and put it off until, it feels right. And then we, started doing a bunch more episodes and stuff, and then we were like, hey,
we should go back to that one.
Yeah, we forgot to go back to New Frontier. So we went back to it. And it was even better this time. So.
Yeah, it was like, even with having that background on it now a little bit, it was still like a complete refresh. And it's like, oh man, what a great comic.
Oh yeah, and was the last time your first time reading it?
No, I don't think so. At least I don't think. No, I think I had read it before, but I don't think I had. Again, I'd been in depth. I was just like, oh, it's pretty.
Yeah,
but like actually like reading the story and like kind of seeing the different points, like we were talking this time, like I kind of focused on some different characters, maybe like my favorite characters, and then this time kind of focused on more of the central story and a whole new perspective. Yeah,
I definitely got a new perspective too. It was like, I don't know, like I was saying, I always focused on Hal Jordan a lot because I love Green Lantern, and then some of the like Martian Manhunter story arc, and this is pretty awesome. So I was just focused on those, and then this time reading it, it was like a whole new. I'm like, no, like that's not what this comic's about. Like, it's about obviously this thing. So I don't know if that's just because I've gotten better at reading comics since doing the podcast or whatnot, but we'll figure that out as we go along, I guess. So
you're on this journey with us.
Yep. So first things first, this comic. I didn't even look up when it came out. I guess it's from like 2006, something like that. I think it's 2006. Might be 2004. It's in the 2000s. That's what we'll say. And it, like we said, it's written and illustrated by Darwyn Cooke. It is, a very it's 6 issues long, but the issues are like 60 pages each. I want to say there's 15 or 16 chapters of this book. And you feel it. It's definitely like when you're going through it, you're like, wow, there's a lot in this, but it's so beautiful. And he did such a good job illustrating that, like, it totally, makes up for, any longness or whatever, like he's such a good writer and such a good illustrator. And you might I think we already kind of brought this up like in the Parker stuff, but like, yeah, he illustrated for like Batman the Animated Series, so he's got a very similar style to that.
Yeah, by looking at this, you definitely would be like, oh, that looks familiar, but then like reading through the comic and seeing it progresses, I mean, it's just amazing and gorgeous artwork. Yeah, and it's like an ode to like the 50s and 60s.
And I want to also say, so normally we just say who like the artist and the writer are, but the colorist on this was Dave Stewart, and he did a fucking amazing job.
Oh, yeah.
And then the letterer is named, Max Fleischer, I think is his name. He is also amazing. Because, like, he really, just the way that everything in this book is like a work of art. I wish I could get an original page of this artwork and like have it on my wall because it's so beautiful. I'm sure they exist somewhere, but probably with Darwyn Cooke's wife. So But
Or
yeah,
probably if there's any out there, they're probably worth lots of money.
yes, I'm sure, especially like with how many heroes are in this and everything.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so we'll just kind of dive right into this. As usual with these kind of big epic books, the storyline isn't straightforward, but we're going to kind of go at it in a straightforward way and then like branch off as we need to. But yeah, this book is basically about bridging the gap between Golden Age DC and Silver Age DC, and like what happened there. And it's also like a fuck you to Watchmen. It's kind of like it's like a and I said this last time too when we did it originally, but I felt it again this time. It's like he read Watchmen and was like, you know what? I don't like you. You know, I think you're wrong.
Definitely got that this time a couple times. Especially there are a couple character nods that are very
Oh yeah.
like yeah.
Oh yeah. And yeah, it's just like Darwyn being like, you know what? Superheroes are, you know, good. They are they're like what we try to be. They're our ideals, you know. And you know, he doesn't even sugarcoat it. Like there's a lot of bad stuff in this book.
Yeah.
He talks about war, he talks about racism, he talks about sexism, he talks about a bunch of stuff. And he doesn't excuse any of it. He just says like we should be better.
Yeah, no, he hits on almost all the heroes have a character flaw that's big, but it's about finding that, realizing that, and overcoming that.
Right.
Being the hero that you can be.
Yeah, like it's about even like the bad people that you would think are bad, like the government people.
That's
and stuff.
true.
Like they turn into great characters that like you like and are, you know, even though like maybe the whole comic they've been bad. And then all of a sudden they kind of turn because they actually get their mind changed and stuff. And then you're like, oh, like I see, you know, I like that was really cool that they did that. So, and we'll talk about that more as we, you know, get into this deeper. But but yeah, like this comic is, it's like his love letter to superheroes and like the idealism of superheroes and the idealism of America. Like he kind of relates it like superheroes are. And this was kind of a controversial idea nowadays, but like the promise of America is something bigger than America, right? Like America always had this racist past or any, you know, whatever its flaws were, they're always glaring, right? Because we're supposed to have, you know, this free society that's based on all men are created equal and all people are created equal, you know, and that's the ideal. And so he says the ideal should, you know, you should always look up to that, even if things are bad and, you know, it's not perfect. The idea of America is bigger than America, you know, or is better than America, you know, kind of thing. And that is a concept that resonates with me personally, I guess, you know, like, especially it seems relevant nowadays. Like if this came out nowadays, I'd be like, well, first off, this book didn't really pull any punches. There was, you know, racist language in it and stuff in the parts where people were being racist, and it is set in the 50s and 60s, so there was like some sexism and some racist kind of not, or he didn't draw anybody racist, but like they refer to people in racist terms, and it was kind of like he just said it, and like I don't know if you could do that nowadays. I don't know if you're allowed to do that. So
not unless you're specifically probably like retelling a historical event.
Yeah, or if you're telling, like if you were of that race and you're telling that story of those people or something, you know. But I found it the way he did it very respectful and powerful. So this comic has some big messages and you know, treats you like an adult. So that's always fun. And it doesn't like shove it in your face. It just shows it like unabashedly, and then you're like, you know, your reaction to it should be, oh my god, you know. Like,
and then the story moves on.
Like yeah. And so
doesn't hold your hand at all.
It does not. And okay, so what? Enough of this. What this book symbolizes and stuff. The story of this book. All right. So this book starts off in 1945. It's in the 40s, where, you know, America either just, I don't know, they just won World War II because they're bringing scientists back. Scientists, we'll say, Nazi scientists from Germany, to help America's, you know, I guess war effort, like as far as staying ahead of the Reds. of the Soviets, and they're trying to like get all the technology, I guess, all the knowledge of technology that the Nazis came up with, rocketry and all that stuff. And so they send the Suicide Squad, led by Richard Flagg, or Rick Flagg, and he, like, I think there's 13 or is it 13? I don't know. There's a 17. I think it's 17 men who go with this on this mission to bring back this one scientist named Dr. Tashner, and on the way they get stranded on an island, and this island has them dinosaurs on it. Okay, and it's actually based on an old comic called "The War That Time Forgot" from the 40s, and it's just back then it was just an island that had dinosaurs on it. I don't think it was anything extra or whatever. But so the comic starts off after they've already been on the island, and another team called the Losers is coming to save them. And so the Losers come out, and there's like 6 of them, and right away, like, they get there and they're like, what the fuck? Like, dinosaurs? This is crazy. And they're like, we got to find Rick Flagg, and we got to find all these people and the professor. And it turns out that a couple of them die on the way to finding like this cave, and then they find the cave, and then the cave is empty and just has I think they find Rick Flagg on the way there, and basically he's the last one left. He's got the notes from the professor, but that's it. Like, the doctor's dead.
Yeah, nobody survived.
Yeah, no one survived. And I think there's only like 2 other guys that survived from the Losers at this point. One of them is a Native American named John Cloud, and the other guy has a name, but I can't remember what his name is. So he's the guy that dies.
Yeah, these characters don't return. So.
Yeah, so they're called the Losers for a reason, because it's okay if they get lost and no one cares about them. So basically, like, a helicopter comes to save them once they're like stranded, and then Rick Flagg gets on the helicopter. He escapes with the folder of like notes, and then the Cloud and the other guy get like attacked by a pterodactyl basically when the helicopter is flying away. And so one of them, or that guy dies, like the unnamed man, we'll call him the red shirt, he dies. And then Cloud is left on the island, and then he has to he writes a note, and he says like,
it's like the Losers, and like writes out like kind of like what happened names. And
yeah, he writes all their names. He's like, I am the last one, and this is my story, and he tells the story on the island. And then he goes out like a baller. Like he totally he gets blown up on accident because he steps on a trap that Rick Flagg set for someone for a dinosaur, but he didn't realize it was there. And then a dinosaur shows up to like eat him, and he's like, fuck you, and he like jumps off a cliff into the T-Rex's
takes like
mouth.
2 grenades and like
yeah,
pulls the pin.
It was fucking epic. It was epic. So that was in like 1945. So Rick Flagg lives, and he gets out with these notes. So, and I was telling John this, it became apparent to me that the main story arc of this tale of this comic is Rick Flagg. Like, Rick Flagg is the overarching like character through all these different eras.
Yeah, he starts it and he's pretty much at the end.
Yeah, and so yeah, he like basically when he gets back, he starts working for the government like hardcore. And that's one of the things in this. The government is pretty active in this comic, which makes sense because that's like at the time of the CIA and NSA and all these different like covert ops happening. And Rick Flagg starts up the Suicide Squad again, and another like branch of it called Argent is run by this dude named King Faraday, who's like actually a CIA guy or whatever. And the main thing that's going on right now in America is they've basically gone through all the HUAC trials where they were like convicting people of being communists and everything. And they've decided that superheroes being masked and whatnot is like part of that. So being a superhero is illegal now. So the only superheroes that are allowed to work legally are the ones that are working for the government. So you got Wonder Woman and Superman, basically. And then you have a bunch of like human scientific kind of superheroes that they're not super powered, but they are like like now is the time of science explosion, right? So you have the Challengers of the Unknown, and you have like Doom Patrol and weird like science kind of um, superheroes that are like they'll work for the government too. And like I said, you even have the Suicide Squad again because Rick Flag starts that back up. So as long as you're working for the government, you're all good. And then there's like the superheroes that are vigilantes. So you have like the Flash. He's there now. And he's working under the radar. He's illegal, but he's not really doing anything wrong or anything. You have Batman, who's like, and this is his original Batman because this is supposed to be like Bruce Wayne original. He is super fucking cool looking. Like he's got the ears, the old school ears that are long. He's all fucked up and mean and shit. Like in the beginning, there's a great scene where he saves a kid and the kid's like all scared of him when he's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Don't hurt me." And
me, Batman.
yeah, and yeah. So like, there's Batman. He's a vigilante, and then you get like
I like that's the old. He has the old Buick Batman.
Oh yeah,
too, with the big like bat head on the front.
Yeah, like the big shield.
Yeah.
And then you get this superhero called, or this vigilante called John Henry, they call him, but his name is John Wilson. And he was a black man in Tennessee whose family was murdered, and so he, in like the spirit of John Henry, the American folktale, he like he like blacksmiths some hammers to go like kill some KKK members, which is pretty badass. And so yeah, he's one
of the ones that I thought was like a direct, like we were saying about the Watchmen, because he kind of looks like Hooded Justice.
He looks a lot like Hooded Justice. Some might even say it is Hooded Justice. But yeah, like that was like this whole era is like directly kind of tied to the Watchmen, if you like want to make that comparison, because not tied to literally, but like just they're similar. If like the Watchmen takes this era and then goes one way with it, and then this one takes this era and goes another way, so it's like kind of branching realities of a similar kind of time in history. And so Rick Flag's working for the government, and during this time, while everything's going on, working for the government, like we said, all the superheroes besides Superman and Wonder Woman are like laying low. So you got like all the JSA, all the Justice Society of America, they have gone underground. They're not superheroes anymore.
Basically disbanded at this point.
Yeah, they disband. You got like they show what's his name? The guy that plays the cat, or the guy that's the cat. I can't remember his name. Grant, Alan Grant. No, I can't remember. Whatever his name is. Grant is his last name. He is the cat. He's the boxer dude. And he's in it, but it just has the boxer guy. And he's like, "Oh man, it'd be cool if you met my friend Jay Garrick and stuff." So he's mentioning all these JSA members, but they're not like active anymore. And the only ones that are from the Golden Age are Wonder Woman and Superman, and they're fighting in Korea and fighting in Cambodia under the guise of like humanitarian efforts and stuff. And one of the things that I thought was really cool was how like Superman in general is always considered like he's not a questioning fella. Like if America says do it, he's like, well, why would they lie? Why would they be bad? So he goes off and he'll fight whoever is America telling him to do it. But I liked that Wonder Woman was very like strong in this and like not just a follower. And like she's off in Cambodia like to do she was supposed to like uncover or like help recover a spy plane that landed or that crashed. But then when she was there, she found like a camp of women that were like sex slaves, and she like frees them. And then Superman comes and is like, "What'd you do?" Because all these men were dead in the camp. And she's like, "Well, I freed them, and I just had the men lay down their guns, and then the women were free to make the choice, and they
wanted to do.
Murdered all the men. They were the ones who were the sex slaves, so it seems like the right thing to do." So I like that she's very like strong in this and like a really good character. And she's like the one who gets Clark to see or Superman to see maybe the US isn't always telling you the right thing. Maybe you should think for your fucking self, Clark.
I like that when she's picking at his brain like that, and that's a really cool parallel that we'll see throughout. Is she's Superman. You need to look past what they're just telling you in the front. Like there's more to this, and he's like, wow, I'm probably gonna have to report this, and she's like, yeah, go ahead. Like there's the door. Like, she's no problem telling off Superman.
Yeah, or any government agent or like the president or whatever. If you think about it, that makes sense because she's like basically a demigod from an island where you're not going to destroy us because we're like immortal Amazons that are warriors. So what? You're going to go to war with us because we'll take you on. So it's she's in a position to fight or push back or like not be intimidated. So I appreciated that a lot in this. And also, one thing I liked is that they have like kind of a relationship. Like they kiss, and it's kind of like, oh, that's like I thought that was just like a Frank Miller thing, but apparently Darwyn was a fan of Wonder Woman and him being an item as well, because the only one I've ever seen where they're like together for real is in Frank Miller's universe, but yeah, so like they're not like super out there or whatever. It's not like Frank Miller where like they have sex and get pregnant right away.
Yeah, no. But I mean, because also like Lois Lane definitely is some kind of love interest for Superman in this too.
Yeah, but I think like I don't know if he says that they're friends, but I feel like there's more than just friendship in it. Because they did like when she at the end she's getting like she got hurt and he like kissed her or whatever, and it was kind of like, oh, okay. Like, are they more than friends? Or, they kind of, like, leave it there. Yeah. And, like, also, Lois and Superman don't have that much, like, love scenes in this or anything. So, it was kind of like...
No, but there were some nods, I thought, to that, too.
Yeah, but more nothing, like, explicitly... Yeah, in the end, there might have been more. But just, like, during the comic, there wasn't many... She was just a reporter who was, like, tenacious.
Yeah.
Along with Jimmy Olsen. And so...
Yeah, I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah. He's also in love with Wonder Woman too by the end of it. So, but yeah, so at one time or like in the 50s, you get the space race happening, right? So like everybody's freaking out. NASA starts is a thing. It becomes a part of the federal government, and so now they're part of the space race. And we find out that the reason this is because the government found or saw a disturbance one night when a little person we might know as Martian Manhunter came to Earth, and they went to the area where this disturbance was, and they found a dead professor and a Martian footprint, and they're like, oh my god, the Martians are attacking. And they couldn't find this Martian Manhunter, but he was assimilating, becoming like us and trying to hide among us humans. And he is one of my favorite characters in this comic.
Oh yeah, I love that he comes and like it's mainly like the guy died because he had a heart attack. Basically, he's like,
right. He saw his Mars form and he's like, ah.
He's like, I'm sorry, you called me and I'm saying, hey, I'm here. And
I didn't even think it was a call. It was like you sent your signal and it just pulled me here or whatever. Like it wasn't even.
Well, yeah, he said like the professor or the scientist was like, "Hey, I sent out a radio call. I just thought maybe I'd get a radio signal back,
not a person,
not you here in the
or an alien, yeah." And so, and at the time, Martian Manhunter doesn't look like his like smooth, normal self. He's all jagged and Martian-y.
Yeah, he's kind of almost xenomorphy a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. He's got a little bit of xenomorph in him, but not like to that extent where it's like insect-like. But he's more humanoid than that.
Just the head, really.
Yes,
elongated.
And so he starts like trying to kind of assimilate into our culture, and it shows him like sitting at an apartment watching TV, and he's like he can morph into anybody he wants from his appearance. So he's like watching Bugs Bunny, he turns into Bugs Bunny, and he's watching any talk shows, and he turns into those people. It was very fun. It was very fun to see him like do that, and he goes to movies and he sees Superman cartoons. I love the fucking Max Fleischer cartoons that they show from the 40s or 50s. I guess it's the 50s because this is in the 50s, but those Superman cartoons, while a little problematic, somewhat are beautiful animations. And definitely check those out if you haven't seen those because they're real. But have you seen those?
Yeah, I think I have a collection of it somewhere.
Okay, yeah, probably digitally somewhere. We have them some on one of our platforms or whatever that we subscribe to. But yeah, he decides watching movies and stuff that he wants to be a detective. So he like gets the full like trench coat, fedora.
Yeah, he like creates this persona of John Jones.
Yeah, and he spells it like his alien name is John Jones, but
Yeah.
he spells it the way that like John, like John Johnson, but John Jones, and and yeah, so he actually becomes like a really good cop, and so one of the things that he starts noticing and that he's like tracking specifically is there's like more and more weird, like crazy people and crazy things happening. He tracks down like a cult that's like an end of days cult, and they're like going to sacrifice a child. And we kind of referenced this earlier, but like Batman is also following all this weird stuff, and he's tracking it down too. And so they run into each other kind of at this church where there's like a kid going to be sacrificed to the center. And it's like this crazy priest, and there's all these hooded robe people. It looked like exactly like what like the 80s and 90s satanic panic people were talking about, where like there's just people in robes being like, oh, Satan, like whatever, whatever they're chanting and stuff. Canine spiritus, like so like they go to stab the kid, and Batman's able to like pull him away before anything happens. And Martian Manhunter actually gets scared because there's a bunch of fire, and that's Batman finds out, oh, you're scared of fire. So like now if I ever want to, like he's followed this guy around too, and he knows who he is. So he knows he's like not a human. He doesn't know exactly what he is, but he knows he's not human and he's scared of fire. So, and he even says later on, that's
it's one of the best lines in the thing. He says, I spent like $70,000 on
in 50s money, $70,000
on a piece of meteorite to stop the big guy with the symbolized chest.
Yeah.
I only need is a penny for a buck of matches for you.
Yeah. Just roll that through your brain while in case you ever get thinking you want to fight us or whatever. So, but yeah, so like basically he just like wants to figure out what's going on and like solve this mystery of like why are people going crazy, but also like trying to protect himself. He's also like trying to figure out how to fit in America. Like he's like watching all this racist stuff on TV about when they introduce John. What was his last name? John Wilson. John Wilson's family gets murdered in Tennessee, and it's all over the news when he actually dies because he becomes John Henry and then fights the KKK, and then they find him and kill him. And I will say that is like one of the most like powerful stories in this, like side story arcs in this is, so John Henry is running around and he's taking on the KKK. And one night they do catch up to him and they shoot him and he's wounded, and he runs into like a fence into someone's backyard, and he's dying, or he's gut shot at least, and he's like can't stand up, and this little girl comes out and he's like, little girl, help me out, and he had to like pull up his mask to say it, and she's like, the guy's over here, but they don't say the guy. I'm not going to say it, but
explicitly. He's like, he's over here. She calls him out. It was super.
Yeah, it was very like, oh my God. And then she's so like innocent looking, the way that he draws her, it just makes it even more like painful or whatever on the page. And yeah, so Martian Manhunter's watching this and seeing how like they can't even accept black people in America or in the world. And, he's like, well, what chance do I have? A Martian, how are they going to accept me? So he's just going to lay low for a bit and see what happens. And in the meantime, we get like introduction of Hal Jordan, where like it shows him as a kid, and then it shows him like, fighting, and it turns out he was an Air Force pilot in Korea, and he was like a pacifist pilot. So like, this is kind of funny. This is a different take on Hal Jordan. I hadn't really seen this before. this comic, but he like instead of flying and shooting people with his airplane, he would like take the fire from others while doing like maneuvers to not get hit, and then he would fly them in front of his friends, and his friends would shoot them down. So he never actually had to hurt anybody, except on like the last day of the war in Korea. It was like, stand down, everybody. There's we signed the papers. The war is over, and he's like, all right, I just gotta like get home or whatever, and then he starts getting shot at by some Korean MiGs, and they take him down, or like, he gets shot, I guess, and he ejects from his plane. He starts landing with his parachute, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna land on top of a Korean soldier. I don't think they got the message yet. And so yeah, they didn't. It was like armistice like 2 hours earlier, but everybody on the front lines hasn't got the word yet, so they're still fighting. So they start shooting at him. He lands on one of the guys, the guy who was closest, like right under him, and he's like, I don't want to hurt you, and he's trying to remember how to say like it's over, stop in Korean, and he can't remember.
And the guy's trying to kill him. He's got a knife on. They're wrestling around.
Yeah, and he's got a gun, but it was like pushed to the side. So like the guy's got the knife, and he doesn't want to use his gun, and then it turns out like basically the guy's about to stab him right in the throat, and he has to shoot the guy. So he kills the guy, the Korean soldier, and it like haunts him. And he's like, how do you deal with that kind of thing? He's a pacifist, and he found out that he would fight for his life if he had to, but and then one thing I liked about this is he even said later on, like, because they're talking about like, oh, you're a like they didn't say he's a coward, but they're like, oh, you won't like take a life or whatever. He's like, it's not that I won't take a life, it's that I don't think these wars were worth it. Like if you're gonna tell me to go kill someone, there better be a good reason, and like risk my life too. And if I don't think it's a good enough reason, then I'm not gonna kill people for you. And so I thought that was cool. It was a good like kind of different take on war and stuff in comics, because usually war, at least from this time period, was considered like glorious or whatever. And so a lot of people, when they write about World War II or they write about certain wars, they're like, yeah, we beat them, and this was kind of like a different look back on it from a different perspective. And it wasn't saying that like everybody's bad, it was just saying that like the government might have wars that aren't necessarily correct morally or whatever, or like aren't in the people's best interest kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's definitely like a common theme that we're seeing.
Yeah, the government being bad in this is like probably the only real bad besides the main bad guy in this whole book. So
it's the government keeps doing things, and someone's like starts to question that, like, that doesn't quite make sense for what we're supposed to be fighting for.
Yeah. And even like so as like the government starts, we're getting the Korean War and the kind of the beginnings of like Vietnam and stuff. They don't quite get to Vietnam yet, but it's like, we're in that area still. And they like Diana gets disillusioned by the government, and she's like, they basically tell her like, we don't want any of your big ideas, ma'am, because she's like, oh, what we should do? We should go like, take on these people that are like, starving this nation or whatever. And they're like, hey,
why don't you take a vacation?
Yeah, I don't go to your job and like tell you what to do. So yeah, basically they make her like a forced vacation. So she leaves, and Superman's like, hey Diana, why did you leave? And she's like, what are you, stupid? Like they made me leave. It's not like I was like, yeah, I want to go. They just stopped. They didn't want to hear what I had to say. So yeah. And then we get like the introduction of like the Flash and a couple other characters. We see the Challengers of the Unknown come into play, and they're pretty big in this, which I found fun because they're not really known in DC too much anymore. And they've tried to bring them back a couple times, but they never really stick. But they're basically in this, they're just like four or I guess 3 scientists and like one movie stuntman, and they're just kind of like, we're humans that are badass and we'll do anything, like it's just that style of like we're not super powered, but we're willing to give our lives for something bigger or whatever kind of thing. And it was fun, and yeah, just having them in it kind of added like a little bit more tension because they're humans and so they can get hurt and stuff. Like anytime you saw them after a mission, they were always like bandaged and bruised and had broken legs and stuff. And
Ooh, we made it.
yeah, we just barely scraped out of that one. So, yeah, and you get like the government is obviously they are moving forward with their space race, and we find out that the government is actually they've started their own space race, but they're trying to build a spaceship to Mars because they know that Martians exist, obviously, because they have a footprint. But they don't know where the Martian is on Earth, but they're like, okay, we're gonna attack them kind of before they attack us. So they just automatically assume Martians are bad, I guess, because movies, I guess. I don't know. They show Martian Manhunter at a movie where there's an alien from Mars, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
They didn't do any research on this. That's not what Martians look like. So yeah, he's like, basically they just don't want to deal with threats off the Earth anyway. So they're like, okay, we're going to send a spaceship to Earth, and it's going to have a virus warhead, a nuclear warhead, and like a fungus warhead or whatever. And they're going to like kill, or like a poison warhead, and it's going to kill anything that's on that planet, that looks at us weird. Like if they come to us with open arms, what do you think would happen if a spaceship landed in the middle of America? It's the same thing. If we go there, we're going to land in wherever, and they're going to be like either, greeted with like hesitation at best, or like, kill them or get off the planet or whatever. So basically it was like, yeah, we're going to bomb this planet. But so leading this mission, originally they were training Hal Jordan, because this mission is actually under it's under the government, but they're using Ferris Industries as a cover. It was like a like private sector cover for it. And so Hal Jordan is dating Carol Ferris, and she's in charge of Ferris Industries. And so he's working for her, and he's like part of one of the ship that's going to go up, but he doesn't know what it's for. He's like training, doing all this shit, and he's like, what the fuck is this? Like, are we going to space, or what are we doing? Like, you're not telling me anything, and I'm kind of sick of this. And so he finally gets it out he gets told about King Faraday, who's in charge of the Argent side of like the covert ops, the wet works, if you will, of the government, like CIA of this. And then you have the Rick Flag is running the Suicide Squad part of it. And so he's doing like out there missions that are in the news, and they're like, they're punching the bad guys in the face, and that's the Suicide Squad with Rick Flag. And then they have like all the people murdering people behind the scenes with Argent. and so you automatically think like King is a bad guy because he's like a dick and he's in the government. And you also think that Rick Flag is he's just more of a dick. He's not really a bad guy, but he's not like a nice guy.
But yeah, he doesn't like Hal Jordan. He's like,
through the eyes of Hal
cocky.
Jordan. Yeah, he's like not a nice guy, and neither is King. They're not good people.
Yeah, when Hal's getting kind of explained about the Mars mission, he's like, "Are you serious?" And King's like, "No, I always joke around." Like,
yeah,
come on, kid.
Yeah, he seems kind of like Mad Men or whatever, like just the guys from Mad Men, but they like but in this he's redeemed. Like it'd be like, but in Mad Men they're assholes all the time. So, but he had that air about him. But then later on he gets redeemed, and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's cool. So they're coming up with that plan to like make this rocket that Hal Jordan was supposed to be on this mission for. And then Hal Jordan getting all, mavericky and showing how he's a hot shot when they're doing like the simulations. He kind of fucks up, and then the government's like, hey, you're fucking around too much. Like, stop that. And like, you're fired. We don't need a hotshot pilot, fucking up our stuff.
I think Rick Flag is the one who decides, like, nah, he's off of it.
Yeah, Rick Flag does. And we find out later that Rick Flag is actually a big fan of Hal Jordan, and that he did this because he knew this was going to be like a suicide mission, kind of. So he's like, I can't, basically he knew Hal Jordan's dad. He flew with Hal Jordan's dad. He reveals this to Hal later on, but he's like, I just wanted you to know, like, I didn't kick you off because you sucked. I kicked you off of it because I was like trying to protect you or whatever. So that's where he gets redeemed, and you start to like him more. But yeah, so the mission's about to happen where they're gonna go to Mars, and all this takes over. Like, they jump through the years pretty, fast. So there's not like, you're not like, oh, this is like month by month. It's like, oh, 1945, 1952, 1956. 1958, like, so.
Yeah, the only other thing you're really seeing is that Batman and John Jones, Martian Manhunter, kind of also like piecing together with their detective skills, like what the center is. Like he has a book, and Batman finds like a
medallion,
the medallion key that opens the book, and they're like, when John Jones is reading, it's like, oh, apparently this being of control, that's like
called the center.
The center is like controlling things and has been here for a long time. So it's talking like Vikings.
Well, yeah, it starts off the book, like, once he opens it, it says like, and this is the book he got from that weird cult.
The cult, yeah.
Yeah, so like when they saved that kid earlier, there was a book called The Ancient Book of Rights or whatever, and it had a seal on it, and then that seal had a key, or needed a key to be open, and so Batman found the key. And we should say Martian Manhunter had all this evidence and everything, and he gets the key, and he opens the book, and it starts off with like Vikings, and they are like writing all this down, and basically there was like this giant monster from space, and it comes down to Earth, and it had all these dinosaurs and shit on it and everything. And then it lay dormant for a while, but now it's like rising up, and it's starting all this mayhem on Earth. And so basically it is that dinosaur island.
Yeah.
And we find
island itself.
The island itself is a monster. And like it's woken up because of like the new fuels that are being used for like rockets and stuff. It's like, oh, it got stuck on Earth back in the day. And so now, instead of just being an island with dinosaurs on it, it's like, oh, now that rocket fuel is an invention, it's waited all this time for something like that to happen so that it can use that fuel to get back into space and then, like, do its thing in space. So, but it has like a sonic ability or a psychic ability that like makes people go mad. So like as the years progress in this, all these people are like going mad and like freaking out and crazy, or people having like crazy bouts. There's even like a scientist that was on the Mars mission team that like gets arrested. And this is like the first time Martian Manhunter finds out about this mission. But this guy gets arrested. He's like, I'm an astrophysicist, and there's an alien on Earth, and he's going to kill us all. And there's all this weird stuff, and like there's an island, and it's crazy, and we're going to Mars. And the police are like, sure, buddy. Right. And he actually like shot 2 cops and stuff. So he's like, fucked. He's going to jail for sure. And John goes to talk to him, and he's like, this dude's telling the truth. Like, this guy knows what's going on. Apparently there's something like mission to Mars that's going on. And then King Faraday comes in. He's like, hey, everybody.
It's that scientist
This guy's a wacky dude. He's telling crazy stories.
He is just overworked. We'll go ahead and take him off your hands.
Yeah. Don't worry about us. Don't worry. We got it from here. So he takes him out, and then John.
He said you're.
John shakes his hand.
Yeah.
And then he gets like a mental image of all the stuff. So he's like, oh my God. They're going to like attack Mars. They're going to like, they have this whole mission. They know about me. Like, I'm fucked. So like, he's basically like, I got to figure out how to get back to Mars. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to take this ship that they're going to send to Mars back. And then maybe he can like, make some peace between them before anything bad happens. He doesn't know that there's like thermonuclear devices and stuff on it though. He just thinks they're sending a manned mission to Mars. So when this ship's about to take off, it's like Faraday is looking in the TV or the monitors, and he sees like a figure in the smoke, and he's like, "Oh, it's that damn Martian! I knew it!" So he runs out there, and he's like, "Freeze, Martian!" And John Jones is like, "I know what you're thinking, but I'm not a bad guy." And he's like, "You talking in my head?" Like he gets all freaked out because he does it like telepathically, and then he shoots at him, but it's too fast, or Martian Manhunter's too fast for him. So he like knocks him out. He knocks Faraday out. And then all of a sudden, it was like counting down, like, so it was like 10, 9 when this is going on. So the rockets kind of start to light, and Martian Manhunter's like, 1, freaking out because it's fire. And then 2, he's like, well, I can't let this dude die. So he like grabs the guy. He gets blown away by the fire, but he doesn't die. He just gets knocked out. And then when he wakes up, now he's like in a cage. And Faraday's like, hey, friend. Like, fancy meeting you here. Like, like now you're mine. And so Faraday's kind of like, you don't know what he's going to do. He's got Martian Manhunter. You thought he's pretty, bad so far. But
Well, Martian Manhunter says, and he's like, why did you save me? And he's like, well, when I touched you, like, I could tell that, like, you have a good heart because you feel what you're doing is right. You just don't know the whole, like, story yet, basically.
Right. Yeah, like, his convictions are why he's doing what he's doing. And the main thing was that, not that his convictions are like what's leading him, but that he believes like he's doing this right now because he believes it's needed, but he's fighting for a future where hopefully one day it's not needed. So in his mind, he's justifying it by being like, yeah, now we need to have a war, and now we need to have a CIA and an NSA and all that stuff. But, in the future, when we're doing this now so that in the future we won't need it. And I'm sure we'll vote all of that out, just like we did, in real life. And we got rid of all that stuff, right? No. Yeah, he's very idealistic, apparently, and thinks that the government's going to give up power when it doesn't have to. And
sure.
Huh?
I said, oh, sure.
Sure.
That's how they work.
That's what they're known for. And so they have Martian Manhunter, and I like this. It shows their relationship growing, like they're playing chess. They're like talking to each other and stuff. So like they start becoming friends and like getting to know each other. And so like you see King Faraday being kind of like nice and stuff. Then we get something's wrong with the mission. So the spaceship mission is out. It's only by the moon now, so I don't know how long it's been. But like, so it's to the moon, and there was only 3 people. There's Rick Flag flying, his girlfriend, Karen or Kieran, I can't remember what her name is, and then some other dude. And the other dude was the guy who replaced Hal Jordan, and that guy wigged out apparently and freaked out. It probably from the like the mind stuff going on with all the
yeah,
center.
I think that's what they're alluding to. Just Bright is his name.
Yeah,
he's scientist, and then Karen is the medical
okay
officer. And that's secret. Yeah, they're together.
Yeah, so Rick Flag and Karen are a thing, but no one knows that. And then and Rick, you said Rick Bright?
Just Bright.
Just Bright. Okay, so Just Bright freaks out. He's like, I can't handle this. I gotta get out of here. And I guess they like either he ejects himself or they like throw him out of an airlock because he's like floating in space dead.
Yeah.
And then they're like, this is basically the mission's over. Like we're fucked. We're only like in the very front of this capsule, but now we're falling back to Earth and we're like gonna burn up on entry. And King is like, oh my God, we can't do that. And it's like, why? It's like, and then like as he's thinking that, the challengers of the unknown are like, don't worry, we'll save them. We were monitoring all the lines and we heard that there's a spaceship in distress. And then they just like jump in their ship and King's like, no, don't go on the plane. It's fine. Don't worry. They're going to burn up and that's what they're supposed to do. And the challengers are like, well, I can't hear you. You're breaking up. Like, I couldn't tell if it was them just jokingly saying like you're breaking up or if they were actually breaking up.
They seem like they're being hotshots trying to save the day. So
Yeah, I think they were just ignoring the orders. But what we find out is that, like I said, that ship had a thermonuclear bomb, a virus bomb, and like a poison bomb or whatever, a nerve agent bomb. And so all of those are like warheads or whatever that were going to explode the second they start going through our atmosphere and blow up. And so what ends up happening is the challengers of the unknown get there and they like start pushing the ship into like the correct orbit to enter our atmosphere. But then they're like on it, and Superman comes because he gets called because Faraday's like, no, you need to blow this ship up now. And he's like fighting a robot in Japan. And he's like, what do you need? Like, who is this? You know, like he keeps saying like Bishop Six to big guy or whatever. He's like, who's Bishop Six? Is that Faraday? Like, I can't remember the names that these people give themselves. But yeah, so basically Faraday's calling Superman. He's like, I need you to make this ship blow up. And so he goes to save everybody, and he does. Basically, the challengers of the unknown get pulled out by Superman, and the ship explodes, and Rick Flag dies a hero.
Yeah, well, yeah, because Rick Flag, there's like a self-destruct, so like that's where you find out like he and Karen basically like embrace.
Yeah,
and they're like, we're gonna make sure that this doesn't like explode in the atmosphere, right above, so nobody else gets hurt.
Yeah, so they blow it up, and it's very. At that moment, I was like, and right before he goes on this mission, he tells Hal, like, hey, I wasn't just like fucking you over, like I care about you, kid, or whatever. And it was just like, you son of a bitch, like, you know. I don't know. It was just because, and also like reading this time, I felt more for Flag, you know, because it's like he was been in his whole story up until like this is like the very end of it almost, and so like it really hits you harder, you know. And yeah, so now that mission's scrapped, then everything starts kind of happening all at once. Like the all these dinosaurs start showing up on the Atlantic coast, and things are going awry. This giant one shows up, and in Florida, I guess at Cape Canaveral, and also the island itself has started to move closer to America, and so it actually attacks the Amazons, and they fly, or they fight it and they lose, and so like Wonder Woman flies her invisible jet over to Cape Canaveral, and
Superman just beat up the big one. It's like a pterodactyl, and he like ties it down to a beach, like a kind of like a beach whale looking thing. And so like he's beating it, and there's like government agents all over it, and they're like, okay, we're gonna like check it out. And then that's when he sees Wonder Woman's jet flying in, and these were some cool panels because it's Wonder Woman in her, you can sit in a seated position, so you're like, oh, she's in the invisible jet, and there's blood
all over the place,
all over like the cockpit area. It is it's so coolly drawn.
Yeah, I mean he's just a master at what he does. But and then so we find out that like basically also at this time, like when the explosion happened from the ship, that's what knocked Abin Sur, who is the person who had the Green Lantern ring originally, and that's why he gets crashed in the desert. So the ring ends up finding Hal at this time too, so he's kind of born into the Green Lantern. And then now the island's attacking, and everybody's freaking out because there's all these weird sonic waves. Faraday and Martian Manhunter go to attack, or go to it as well. All the other superheroes, all of them, even like so we got Superman, Wonder Woman. You got all the newer superheroes, like all the Challengers of the Unknown, Suicide Squad. You get like Blackhawks and Green Arrow. You get the Flash. He decides, oh yeah, he gave it up for a bit because Faraday actually tried to capture him earlier on in the comic because he's breaking the law technically, and so he got mad, and so he like gave up what he was doing because he's like, I don't want to be considered a traitor, and then also like I got to protect my wife and stuff, and so he decides that he's got to fight this thing, so he takes up the Flash costume again. So he goes, basically you're getting like the bones of the JLA starting. Superman shows up, and they're like, cool, everybody's here. Martian Manhunter's introduced to everybody.
This was one of the coolest parts of the comic because Martian Manhunter he goes and kind of presents himself in a more
oh yeah, this is where he looks like he did in the 80s, where he has like a rounded face and everything. He looks more like a human.
Yeah, I forget, he says like a more like appealing appearance or something.
Yeah.
And like, so yeah, he looks like his costume. Then he's in a suit for a tiny bit when he goes out with Faraday.
Well, he puts on like the original Martian Manhunter costume was like the tights. He looks like Superman kind of. And then Faraday's like, really? Real men wear pants. And then
Right.
and then he's like, oh, how about this? And he just puts like a suit on, or he like makes his form look like a suit. And then he's like, perfect. And then so then they go over there, and then Hal goes over there.
Yeah.
Everybody's joining in Florida.
And Superman, they're all kind of like bickering because they're like, what are the heroes doing here? And like for the government people, they're kind of bickering a bit. And this is one of the coolest parts because Superman like does like this like thunderclap or something, like get everyone's attention. And he gives like this like, look, we are all in this together. We are all beings of this planet. Or on this planet at least.
Yeah, and we're being like attacked.
Yeah, and it was really cool. It was kind of like that like rebel rousing speech, like we are in this together. Are you with me? Kind of thing. Yeah. It was really
inspirational.
Powerful. Yeah.
And so he immediately flies to go fight the thing, and
and Batman comes, of course.
Yeah, Batman comes. That's the greatest thing. Batman now, because it's the 50s, he's got Robin, and Robin's like, "Gee willikers, do I get to meet Superman?" And Batman's like, yeah, you can meet him. And then like Superman flies down. He's like, oh my gosh, golly, I can't believe I'm meeting you, Superman. And then Batman's got his newer costume on, which looks different. Like it's got shorter ears.
Almost like Adam West Batman.
Yeah, it's close enough to that. Yeah. He just looks happier, which is funny.
That's true. Superman's like, I'm glad you're here, blah, blah, blah. What's with the kid? And he's like, oh, well, we'll just say that we both are like lost souls that like found each other.
Yeah. And so you get Superman flies to go fight the monster or the big island. And this is cool. Like the island actually like raises up. It's got like it's like a big volcano that's got like an underneath part that's like a rounded underneath. And then it's got like a jet, like a giant jet underneath it that shoots out fire. So it's shooting up and it's like hovering above the ocean. And then it's got like a couple like circle eyes or what, like hollow parts of it that are like can shoot beams and shit. So as Superman's going to fight it, it's like kind of testing Superman. And then Superman like is flying around and it shoots him with one of his beams and Superman's just out. He like burns and falls in the ocean, and that's the last we hear of Superman for a while.
All the heroes are like,
yeah, because it's Superman. And so basically they have to come up with a new plan where they're like, okay, all the people with jets and stuff, you guys all fly to it, fight it. Me, like Hal Jordan, this guy named Ace, who was like Hal Jordan's mentor, and another guy from the Blackhawks, I think he's the leader of the Blackhawks. They're going to go fly inside. It's kind of like, and now I say this, it actually looks like Independence Day 2.
I thought about that too with the ship. I was like, the island kind of looks like the ship from Independence Day a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they basically fight it the same way too, where they like go inside of it and then they fly inside of it and then they
drop a bomb.
They drop a bomb, yeah. But similar enough. It's not a virus, but close enough. And so yeah, like they're inside of it. And so this is some of the coolest artwork in this whole book, where it's all like trippy, like Dark Side of the Moon, weird shit, or like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where they're going through the portals and stuff at the end.
Yeah, everything starts swirling together and very, very trippy, kind of psychedelic, and it's like, doesn't matter what you see, like just keep going, towards the center of the being, the center.
Yeah. And they're like I see a mountain. He's like, but I see a sun. And he's like, I don't know what you're saying. Just go towards that thing or whatever. He's like, okay. And so they're flying towards it. And then like Hal Jordan is like, he gets disoriented and like his ship is about to blow up or whatever. And he's just like, well, fuck this. I have my ring. I'm going to like fly with my ring. And so he blows out of his ship before it blows up. The ship blows up. And then like Ace, his mentor, is like, oh shit. Hal, are you there? And then like the Black Hawk guy's like, I think Hal just went to the big flight show in the sky or whatever he says. And yeah, so they think Hal's dead, but he's actually just Green Lantern now. And because he's covered in, his Green Lantern like shield or whatever, like his aura, he can see everything like for what it really is. So he's not like blinded by all the weird psychedelic stuff. And so he ends up saving Ace, and then when he's like about to go save the Blackhawk leader, the Blackhawk guy's like, "I know, just drop my bomb," because like they were getting sucked into the middle area, which is actually not where they were supposed to go. Like it wanted them to like die basically, and without blowing up. So the Blackhawk guy like reaches and like hits his like self-destruct button. He blows up, and Hal Jordan's able to like pull out of the, or like him and Ace out of the center of this thing. And then this is like a double plan they had, and they come up with this like on the shore before, but basically once the Flash shows up, they're like, how fast are you? Because they also bring Ray Palmer, and he's like hasn't perfected his atom technology yet, and so when he shrinks stuff down, it explodes like after like a couple seconds. So they're like, hey, what if the Flash, who's faster than the speed of light, uses this light device to shrink the island all over the place, and then it'll like explode after like a couple seconds. And so basically that's what they do.
Yeah, right before he's able to do that, like the beached giant pterodactyl like explodes open, and they all have to fight a bunch of little dinosaur.
Yeah, it's creatures. Like it was like a Trojan horse or something.
Yeah.
Like the one that Superman took down and tied to the beach was actually full of little other monsters, and this is where a couple things happen right here. So you get like Wonder Woman wakes up because she fainted from when she flew in and she was all hurt, and so she wakes up and she starts kicking ass, and that's where Jimmy Olsen's like. He's like about to get attacked. He's like, and then something wonderful happened, and like some lady came into view on my camera, and she's pretty, and so like he falls in love with her kind of, and then or gets like a crush at least, and then she's kicking ass and taking names on these monsters, and then Martian Manhunter is like, he starts like freaking out because like the psychic energy is too hard, or just like too heavy on him, and then it's like corrupting him, and so he actually becomes like one of the monsters because basically the island's taken over his mind, and Faraday's standing right next to him, and Faraday's like, no, friend, like like I'll take that energy or whatever. And I don't know exactly how it happens, but it was cool. It's basically he takes on the energy from Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, he like puts his hands on his head or something, and I guess that pulls the energy out of Martian Manhunter,
and it like burns him from the inside out, so like his eyes are smoking and shit. So like that's how Faraday dies, and it was cool. Like he basically atoned for like all the sins that he made in the comic before, kind of thing. So
and that gave Martian Manhunter the extra like, oh, like
now he's totally clear because he doesn't have all this enemy psychic nonsense in his head, so he can like go kick some ass. And now he's got like, I will revenge for Faraday, my friend. And so he goes and kicks some of the monsters' ass too that were on the beach. But then, the monster, like we said, the island gets killed by the explosion inside, and then the Flash on the outside, and then explodes, big boom. And then we find out that Aquaman was able to save Superman. So,
I think it's right before it explodes though, like it's still like unstable. So Green Lantern like puts like a shield around it and takes it into the atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
and like I guess like he like knocks it out further away from the Earth before it explodes.
Oh yeah, look, so the whole time Hal Jordan's been like, I can't, like it said I have to like when he got the ring, it said wait for further instructions or whatever. Like, so he's been like, I can't use this thing until I get further instructions, and then finally he's like, fuck it. So he starts using it, and he charges it up and everything, and then that's when he gets like a revelation from Oa right as he's like flying out with Ace, and it's like, you are the Green Lantern, and you will say this, in brightest day and blackest night stuff, and like you're the protector of the sector and all this stuff. So then he gets like kind of super powered from that, and then that's when he's able to like lift the thing out, and he becomes Green Lantern fully, and so it's pretty epic. But and then Like we said, Aquaman's not really in this fight at all. It just shows him like a couple. There's like one panel or a couple panels of him being like underwater and being like, "There's something evil in the water." This was like a couple issues back, and then now I guess he was on the beach and he saved Superman when.
Yeah, like there's like this weird like after everything Buddy's done and all the heroes have regathered, then this like horseshoe crab looking kind of thing goes up, and we don't know if it's like more aliens or whatnot, but then it opens and he's like, I am author of Atlantis, and this man has been asking for a woman named Lois.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where you were saying, like Lois is more.
That's why I wasn't sure. Yeah.
I think earlier on they wanted you to think that like maybe Superman and her and Wonder Woman were together, but I hadn't seen that before too often. So, but yeah, and that's pretty much like the end of it. Like we get now, so like the Silver Age is born kind of with this battle. You get all the heroes, meet each other and fight together. So now you have the Justice League, and so Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, Batman. I don't think Batman's in the Justice League at first. I can't remember.
Not at first, but
maybe, but yeah. You get all these people, and they're all together now, and so now the Silver Age is born, and that's what the new frontier is. And then we get like this nice kind of speech by Kennedy over like all these nice pages of art and stuff that kind of. It's like the speech where he actually says like "New Frontier" or whatever. I don't know what the exact wording is, but like it's one of those inspirational Kennedy quotes, and yeah, and that's where you see like I like he did like his drawing of the first cover of the first JLA issue, where it's them fighting Starro, and so you get like a nod to that or whatever, and so yeah, that's pretty much the New Frontier is born in the 60s, and and you get like some hope with Kennedy and all that stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much the main storyline of this thing. Anything else you wanted to add on that?
The only part I thought was interesting is there's like a nod to like these
the Golden Age.
Yeah, golden like greater cosmic-y kind of heroes. It's like there's Billy Batson, there's the who's the green hooded.
The Spectre.
And they basically like they gather at one point and Dr. Fate, and they're like, this is not our fight. This is a time for these new heroes to come. Right? This is kind of like an ode to the new frontier coming, and then the Kennedy speech is the end is like the cherry on top of like yeah. It's here. So I just thought that was a nice like little added piece to it.
Oh yeah. I mean, he definitely goes out of his way to like make sure everybody's satisfied in their and like the Golden Age heroes and who they are and all that stuff. I really appreciated this, like his attention to detail in this comic. But on that note, what would you give it, John?
This is fantastic. This is another one it's up there with All-Star Superman as far as the art, and the story is fantastic. And we can say it's long after like reading it and being like, oh man, that was a longer comic. But I wasn't like bored ever.
No, you're never bored.
No, you're just like especially because I read it in two parts. Like there was a volume 1 and volume 2. And at the end of volume 1, I was like, "Oh man, that's all! Like I'm only halfway through this. Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
And then finally, and I remembered that there's that big battle at the end. But then like I'm reading the next one, I'm like, "Where's this big battle?" And then it finally happens. I'm like, "Oh!" And now it's over. Like goodness,
yeah,
that was so much information. And then especially because like while it's linear, there's a lot of that hopping around still, letting you know where every little piece is and who's doing what. So it was just a lot to like kind of reabsorb, but God, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was nice this time to like for me to like realize, okay, Rick Flag is the main like story that goes through all these other story arcs that they kind of allude to. So if I just kind of follow that one and then connect the dots with his story arc, that'll make more sense, kind of thing.
Oh, sure, that's
put it in a totally different like light.
Oh yeah, no, that's what we were talking about. Is the first time I read this, I'm sure I was like, "Oh, Superman's doing this. That's cool. Oh, here's Batman here," and I didn't know as much Martian Manhunter. I was like, "Okay, I'm learning who Martian Manhunter is." Kind of,
yeah,
that's cool. But yeah, it was cool to see like this is like the human perspective, and then with Rick Flag, and then seeing all of these other, like how the heroes come into the story, of coming together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun. This is again, it's up there. This is a 9 for sure.
It's a 9 for you. I think I'm going to give this one a 9 as well. It's I want to give it a 10, but I think it's a little too, like, some parts of it are a little too sweet, and I'm talking specifically like too sickly sweet, or like it's too on the nose, like, and I'm talking about the last Kennedy speech. Like, if he had just left
Does the Kennedy speech ruin it?
The Kennedy speech,
it takes it from being perfect.
It takes it from being perfect to me because it's long. So after you read this long comic, you have to read 10 more pages of a Kennedy speech. Yes, it's got artwork by Darwyn Cooke, but it is a Kennedy speech. And also, we know what happens to Kennedy, and we know what happens after Kennedy. So it kind of, like, it's all, this book's supposed to be like inspirational, but then you're like, yeah, but then he gets shot in the head, and then like starts, and then Vietnam happens, and then like we're here now. So like it's kind of, it's got a promise in it.
Well, this isn't like, this is just an ode. It's not really canon per se. So it's
no, but I'm not saying, I'm saying canon as in, obviously Darwyn Cooke knew what the real world had in it, right? And so he uses Kennedy for a reason. Like, so he's saying, like, you know, like the whole thing of this book is it's hopeful, and you know, the world isn't all shit or whatever.
So you're saying this book is a facade? This is like, this is what it used to be.
I'm saying this book reaches a little too far at the end with the Kennedy speech, because if he had just left it, if he had just shown the last page being Starro and the JLA, and then said, like, you know, welcome to the new frontier or something, you know, like, that would be enough for me. Like, I don't want, like with the Kennedy speech, it just seemed too preachy or whatever, or like, you know, I get it, we're happy, all right, like, but then at the same time, if you know if you're doing a whole Kennedy speech, then you know all the assassination of Kennedy, you know, Vietnam, you know, all the stuff that happened after that. So it's kind of like a weird thing to end on when you know what. How are you supposed to be hopeful when you know what happens after this? So
I guess it's true.
So yeah, like I just think the Kennedy speech kind of, for me personally, ruined it a little bit to a 9. All right, brought it down to a 9. Yeah, and same. I think I gave All-Star Superman a 9 as well, and that's because of Bizarro stuff, you know. You know, so it's
So in Matt Hansen's book, if you're gonna give him a comic, don't give him Bizarro story, because he hates that, because he can't. He hates the speech, and don't give him history stuff when it's gonna go into bad history. That after you have a nice, pretty story, don't go into don't give you hope in the story, and then be like, oh, but don't forget about this crappy history that comes after it.
Well, the problem is he's saying, like, remember, there's hope, and he's using Kennedy to say that, and I'm like, that's not a good person to say that with.
So you're looking at it from that historical aspect of being a history buff too, because most people, when they think of Kennedy, they're like, oh man, Kennedy. But okay, when you
I was gonna say, when most people think about Kennedy, they think he fucked Marilyn Monroe.
Okay, they think about Marilyn Monroe, and they think,
and then, like, back into the left. That's all.
Yeah, and they think about him, getting shot in the head. But besides that, Kennedy was very well liked. He was his speeches were, everybody always talks about. So my grandma had his speeches on vinyl.
And I get that's why Darwyn Cooke would use it as his, because he was an older gentleman. But also, to me, this is what it means to me: is it doesn't bring hope, because I know Kennedy stuff. You know, we all know what happened to Kennedy and what happens after Kennedy. So
no, I get you. That's what I know. I just was saying, for a Matt Hansen 10, don't have John F. Kennedy speech where it's going to ruin the rest of history.
If you're going to have a presidential speech,
better be Teddy.
I don't know. Whatever. Let's wrap this up. So yeah, you gave it a 9. I gave it a 9. And next week, if you guys would like to read along and listen, or just get spoiled, whatever, we are going to read X-Men God Loves, Man Kills. So from what we understand, is considered one of the best X-Men books. I have read it a long time ago.
I have not. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, Feel free to email us at planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, at gmail.com.
Don't forget to check out our Twitter, our Instagram, and our YouTube channel for exclusive content. We just put up our first unboxing. Check out the almighty Swamp Thing statue that Matt got. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so fucking glorious.
Like, we can talk about it all day long too until you see this statue. It is amazing.
I'm staring at it right now. But yeah, if you guys have any $800 lying around, feel free to pick that statue up. It's amazing. So yeah, on that note, we'll see you next time.
On the next one.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.